I've been in education, as he mentioned, 33, actually going on 34 years. I have a lot of stories, but you know, I come home and tell my wife about them, and sometimes she just kind of looks at me. I think she's heard me so many times. She told me the other day, she said, you know, if you're about half as funny as you think you are. I thought, wow, you know, married 32 years, I guess you just say whatever. But, yeah, I get that. The truth is, she's a dear because she moved here with me. And that's not easy to uproot your life and uproot your family. And our kids are adults, 28 and 29, but it's not easy. But I'll tell you, the more we learn about this community, the more we learn about all of you in this room, what you stand for, what Omaha stands for, and Willie, you hit on it, it's really empowering. I don't know that you realize how special you are. And having come from a different state and a different city and having served in leadership roles in different districts, one that looks a whole lot like OPS, Wichita Public's 51,000 kids, 100 schools. And most of my career was spent there, 20 of my 33 years. So I know the difference between a community that cares and one that steps back and says, those kids are on their own. My kids are out of school. And I'll tell you, guys, this is not just me talking. This is a guy who's been on the other side of the block, and a guy, I know I'm not supposed to maybe use this as a podium for the bond issue, but I'll just say a couple of things. I do have the mic. So where else can you get the Chamber of Commerce to be in a commercial with your kids saying it's a good thing for this city, for the economic vitality, to have young people that are successful regardless of their zip code? Ladies and gentlemen, that's what Omaha Public Schools is going to provide because of this kind of community care. So I thank you for that, and I know that wasn't my topic for today. And by the way, it was hard to come up with a topic. What do you want to talk about? How do you lead with strategic planning? How do you lead with data analysis? Some of the same topics. In fact, the agile piece that you just talked about, Steve, I mean, those are all elements that are part of what I've seen for the last year and a half in Omaha. What I came into was a siloed system. It really wasn't communicating. What I came into was a system that didn't have a strategic plan. They didn't have goals of where they were headed. They hadn't done one in over 15 years, almost 20, which I always find that curious. How do you know if you're making progress if you don't know what you're making progress to? How do you know where you want to go if you don't know what the destination is? Anyway, so we've worked a lot on that, did a lot of collaboration, communication, creating a system that has a target, creating a system that makes a difference for kids, creating a system that you have a part of as a community member. And I really liked your slide, the one that showed all those boxes, and I thought, man, that could be our slide. It's interesting how many organizations struggle with the same things. Creating alignment and coherence, led by people that understand how to work with one another. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? But then it gets all difficult as you work with people. It gets kind of murky out there, and keeping that alignment, you do need the enterprise to keep that alignment working. Maybe a few stories, too, to keep that alignment working, and how you create that understanding. But those aren't the topics I'm actually going to talk about. I thought, gosh, I've only got 7 minutes, which, by the way, is not a lot of time for a superintendent. I'll just be honest with you. We usually get the mic for a little bit longer than that, but that's okay. It's truly an honor to be here, and I sure appreciate being invited, and I thank you, Adam, for reaching out. My neighbor lives a couple blocks away, reached out, and I sure appreciate that. What I wanted to talk about in this limited amount of time is, so what is it? Beyond those skill sets that we must have to be good leaders, the understanding of communication skills, the understanding of collaboration, the understanding of how we work to create aligned visions, what are the other pieces of leadership that we see missing sometimes? And this is kind of a test for you guys to think about your own selves, think about the individuals that are leaders within your organization, and think about who they are as people, and think about where we want to go with them. So one of the things I've talked about for many years, and the more I see people over the years, the more I think it rings true. If you're a leader, and if you're leading in a challenging time like we are right now in OPS with lots of changes, and by the way, change is always good until it impacts you. And then they don't like it. The rocks come out. And there's always folks out there willing. I got to tell you, over the last year and a half, I found a few of those. I found a few of those rocks, but that's okay. And part of the reason it's okay is because I have a strong ego. And this is what I tell principals, this is what I tell assistant principals, this is what I tell leaders in any organization. I'll tell you, if you're going to make change, if you're going to make an impact, and it's going to be lasting impact, you better have a strong ego, because you will have some rocks thrown at you. You're going to have staff members who aren't happy. You're going to have some community members that didn't like that decision or did like this decision, even if they have input. There'll be some that won't like it. But my point of the story is you've got to be able to withstand that. Whoops, I guess I'm hitting the button here. So you have to be confident. But one of the pieces I see with a lot of leaders today is they become arrogant. They lose track of just because you know a lot, just because you've got the title, just because you've got a bigger office maybe, it's not about you. It's not about you. If you ever start thinking it's about you, you're going to be destined to failure. And by the way, people will figure that out. They'll figure that out. You have to be knowledgeable. You have to understand. You have to be well-versed in everything that's appropriate, but you can't be a know-it-all. You can't be unwilling to say, maybe that is a good idea. I've seen a lot of folks that get in leadership positions who start to think they know everything. Listen and learn. I'm from Kansas. I know all the answers. I've seen several superintendents and principals not make it because they came in with all the, holy cow, 1 minute? You're kidding. Wow. Jiminy. I was just getting wound up. Man. All right, I'm gonna run through it here. So I've seen a lot of failures in that regard. Let me move on to the next one there. You have to be organized. You've got to be a facilitator. You can't be demanding and directive, because if you are, you're going to lose the crowd, and now you're leading out in front, and guess what? You're not really leading because no one's following you. You have to be willing to accept criticism. I met with a staff this morning, a faculty at one of our elementaries, not too happy about an article about their school, felt like it was negative. I didn't necessarily feel that way, but boy, they gave me a dose. And the truth is, you need to be able to take a dose. And you need to be able to stand there and describe where you're at. And by the way, sometimes you apologize. I apologized this morning to a group. Of course, I have to admit, I learned that at home, too. I do that with my wife a lot. Sometimes I wake up in the morning, I'll just say, I'm sorry, I haven't done a thing. But I know it's easier to do that. This what I know there's a room full of gentlemen. Excuse me, I know not all gentlemen. But it's easier, isn't it? I had a buddy one time said, I'm not going to say I'm sorry, I wasn't wrong. I said, are you kidding me? Give it up. Say I'm sorry. Peace at home is worth it. Anyway, another topic. Are we doing this again sometime? There's a whole list of topics we could go on. Okay, last item. You've got to be willing to ask for advice and suggestions. You can't be willing to just close the door and not listen to others. You've got to be able to do that. Now, here's some self-evaluation questions that'll help you understand, can you stand and withstand the rocks and create permanent, lasting, long change that makes a difference in the lives of the organization you're in, or in my case, kids? Do you have these kind of traits? Now, again, this is kind of the big picture piece, but think about that. That's a self-evaluation for you guys to think about. Because if you're going to create lasting change, that's the kind of leader you're going to have to be. Those are the kind of things you're going to have to think about. How you work with people. How you work with people. So I want you to think about those things. I know I'm out of time, because here's what you're looking forward to. You're looking forward to change that's actual change that stays in place. That's bigger than you. That if you leave, it remains that way. If I leave, that strategic plan is still in place. The district reorganization we've done is still in place. The student assignment plan that we're reviewing, by the way, if you're familiar with our busing plan, the most convoluted plan I've ever seen, by the way, we're working on that too. Other issues that we're working on will be there even if I'm gone, and I can tell you that because where I've been before, the changes that we made are still in place, and the truth is they're there because we did it together. We had a collective vision, here's the outcome, and we collectively determined how we were going to get there. I sure appreciate the time today. Thanks so much for allowing me to be here.